So in my opinion, the Rams rebranding has been an absolute disaster. First off, I hate what they did with the logo, and a lot of people agree. It took them forever to reveal it, it got leaked, and the leak looked horrible. Then they decided to wait all the way until May to release the uniforms, after every other team had revealed theirs, and they had that logo sitting out there all by itself. I mean, it was just a mess. Now, there are some things I really do love about the uniforms, like I love the concept they did with the bone uniform, but winning can make any uniform look good. And in my opinion, people hate the Patriots uniforms, but when I first started watching football, they were the team that I thought was the best, so I associated their uniforms with greatness, and I personally loved them, so I was kind of upset when they changed them up this year. But for the Rams, well, they could be heading into a downward spiral, and I think their uniforms are not only hated by the fans, but I think they also might be associated with some losing coming up. There have been teams in the past that have rebranded and lost, and fans associate those uniforms with losing, like when the Browns switched their uniforms up. But I mean, it's the Browns, they're always losing. Like I said, the bone concept is really good, I just don't like how it was executed. I mean, nothing about the uniforms to me personally looked clean. They looked like they were trying to appeal a specific audience rather than everyone as a whole. The gradients are kind of terrible in my opinion. I mean, the Jaguars and recently the Falcons have done this before, and even the Jaguars switched away from that. I don't know why teams think the gradient is a good idea when everybody personally hates it. Now, looking at the drawings of the uniforms they did, I actually think they look really good. But the problem is that's just a drawing, and I don't really like how the uniforms looked on the players when they modeled them in the pictures. Now, they do still have 2 new uniforms to reveal in 2021 and 2022. I hope they do a little bit of a throwback in one of those, maybe do a color rush in the other. I hate the shade of blue and yellow that they are using. It's just too bright for both of the uniforms. Both the shades are just way too bright. I liked how the Rams had a toned down color look, and usually NFL teams do that, but for the Rams they look like they are Best Buy workers or maybe IKEA workers, and it's just not that appealing to look at. Uniforms to me need to have darker shades. Now, the front office has said that they are acting like this will age pretty well on people, and they'll come around to the idea of these uniforms and the logo, and they keep saying that it's a new and different idea. But you know what? Teams have tried that, and historic ones have to always go back to what the fans wanted. And I know the Rams wanted a lot of input from their fans on this, and they had been polling and asking a lot of people, but honestly, I just get confused what they even took away from that, because I guarantee not a lot of Rams fans said they wanted this. I mean, I thought when they moved to Los Angeles, it was good to kind of go back to the old uniforms they had anyway, and I thought that worked. I didn't think that they needed to change a lot about that. I honestly thought they could have even made their logo the helmet with the horns. I even thought the greatest idea they could have had was make the logo the skull ram. That is personally one of my favorite logos in all of sports. And they had been wearing that kind of recently. I just don't know why the Rams decided to do this. Uniforms and logos, and honestly the team name, is something I think the fans should have more input on. I think they're the ones wearing this. They're the one paying for basically most of this. And Rams fans still like the uniforms and the logos because it's their team, obviously, but it really is disappointing to see. The skeletal head they wore, the throwbacks they wore recently with the blue, are honestly like top 10 uniforms for me. And the fact they tried too hard at creating something new is what makes me sad. Now, uniforms trying to appeal to older fans is annoying, but a uniform is meant to really appeal to everyone, and the classic look does that. I think the Chargers blended it correctly with the new and the old, but they're trying to build a fan base so they can kind of take those risks. The Rams didn't need to get risky or be so secretive. Uniforms and logos is something that connects every generation. Different players come in and go, but the uniforms are what connects each generation to the other, and changing that to appeal such a small audience is just a tragic mistake for a historic franchise like the Rams. I will admit, the more I stare at them, the more I can't take my eyes off of them. The tags on the back of both the jerseys and the patch is different, and I really do love the bone uniforms, but I just hate how it was executed. And then don't get me started with the stadium, because it's not going to look very clean around it despite the stadium probably being done. I mean, there is a ton of dirt around that stadium, even though most of the stadium is almost complete. I mean, it looks good, but I think this entire rebrand for the Rams didn't work as well as they probably had thought when they first moved to Los Angeles and how they thought about rebranding. Not to give a lot of credit to the Chargers, but in my opinion, they did do a great rebrand because they weren't trying to appeal any audience, because they don't have the best fan base in the world. Like, their logos appeal to the younger generation, but I also love their uniforms because they mix the old and the new in the correct way. They didn't try to create something new, stuck to what worked, but put a great spin on it and made the alternates the risks, and man, did that work out. I'm not even a Rams fan, so what the heck does my opinion matter? But I still don't like how they went about this, especially when they had the retro sitting right in their back pocket that everybody loved. They even had worn it recently, but you know what? Just like everything, I'll probably come around to the uniforms, and they won't be that big of a deal.